Welcome to the College Essay Advisors podcast. Before we introduce ourselves, here's a little preview of what's to come.
I think sometimes students struggle when, even when they're given brainstorming questions and they have to just like look inside of their brains, close their eyes, think, remember, like a visual is so helpful at sparking memory, just like smells and taste can, bring you right back to a place. So this is just a way to help yourself tap into that. Welcome to the College Essay Advisors podcast, an ongoing exploration of how to write admissions essays that get you noticed and accepted. Hi, my name is Stacey Brooke, and I am the founder and chief advisor at College Essay Advisors.
Hello, my name is Becca Myers, and I am director of advising at College Essay Advisors.
You sure
It'd be
are.
weird if I was somewhere else.
Are you still working here?
I'm here.
I just like to confirm. Today we're going to be talking to you about one of our favorite brainstorming exercises that we call the object exercise. And I love this exercise because when I am talking to students and helping them brainstorm for themselves, very often I will just randomly spit out examples of things that pop into my head. And almost always the impetus for me doing that is I'm looking around my apartment, which is full of stuff because I am a collector of things. And that is triggering some thought in my mind about an experience I've had. So I thought to myself, at some point, we thought, if that happens to us, it has to happen to other people when they look at their stuff. So this is our recommendation. If you need ideas, we're going to have you look at stuff in your house, in your room, in your kitchen, in your wherever you keep things that might be meaningful to you to see if they spark stories.
I think it's a great exercise for high school students as well, because you're about to go to college and you are going to be thinking about what you take. And it also is a period, it's like an opportunity to reflect on what's most meaningful, what's going to come with you in the back of the car. Also, another thing just related to that, I often thought back to when I was a freshman in college, and you decorate your side of the room with posters, but then you don't. That's not what you look at. So I'm interested. Has that changed? Do people now? Do you know what I mean? I
Think
remember.
so. Yeah. No,
Okay, so then
if you're sitting on your bed, you're probably looking at your roommate's stuff. That's so true. I hope my
yeah.
roommate liked Tori Amos posters because that's what you got. But if you currently are lucky enough to have your own room or your own space in a room, it's highly likely that you have tried to make that space your own. And oftentimes we collect objects or put things up around us that make us feel like ourselves. So it would be natural that those objects, decorations, images, etc., would be relevant potentially in helping define who you are in an essay. So to illustrate how this works, Becca and I both went around our abodes and chose a couple objects so we can give you a sense of kind of how all of this starts, what our thought process might be in terms of taking the meaning we find in the object and spinning it into some kind of narrative that might work for a personal statement or an activity essay or something along those lines. And then we dare you to try it at home. I dare you.
Get out
It's
a
really
piece of paper and
fun.
try it right now.
It's
Don't do it
really
if you're
fun.
driving. It is fun.
Who wants to go first? I'm gonna go
I
first.
don't.
I'm gonna go
Yeah,
first. I'm
good.
gonna go first. Okay, so this past January, February, March-ish, or February, March, April, I lived in Tokyo for 3 months, and I love Japan as one of my favorite places, but this was the first time I was actually there for an extended period of time, and I lived in an apartment instead of staying at a hotel. And one of the first things that I bought for myself, and I was so picky about the things that I put in that apartment because I wanted them to feel just like so ultra everything I love about Japan. And the first thing I bought was a toothbrush holder for me and
That's
my partner
so cute. Who is
with
that character?
this is from a brand called Mofu-san, and they make cats just like dressed as other things. So it's a cat in a shark suit, and it is a toothbrush holder. So after like day 3 of, 90, every day when I brush my teeth, I looked at something that was just the most kawaii, uber cute thing on the planet. And now when I brush my teeth, I'm like, remember you lived in Tokyo. I think about it every day. And that time made me really happy. And there are 1 million stories that I could pull from there, obviously. But there's even a story about how an environment is built based on like what you want it to feel like, what you want to think about when you're there. Um, so ideas for essays and how they develop can come from even small things that are totally insignificant or seemingly insignificant, like where you put your toothbrush.
We also really challenge students when they present their objects to us or write about them to think about different angles too. So me being on the outside of that story, what I notice most is that there's a place for 2 toothbrushes there, which
Mhm.
which to me means that your partner, which I know Stacey has a long-term partner, he is also putting his toothbrush there. Presumably, how does he feel about your
Yeah.
cat dressed as a shark?
He was so enthusiastic about it. It was one of his favorite things that I purchased. And if he wasn't, then we would not be together.
Lovely. Well, it
Just
makes me think
kidding.
about what it means. There's possibly room there for writing about what it means to share space and compromise. So, like, I know Stanford
Completely.
has a prompt that's like, what would you want your future roommate to know about you?
Mm-hmm.
This toothbrush
Mm-hmm.
holder may not be built for an entire Common App essay, but we may file it
Mm-hmm.
away if you're working with us on supplements and be like, what an interesting thing. Like, I hope you
Yes.
want to share space with me and
Right.
my, right.
And my kawaii cat shaped dressed as a shark toothbrush holder and my many, many toys that are collectible art, but are really toys, and my thousands of
Yeah.
plants, which are coming
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Um,
But there's always space for you. Like join me. You know what I
100%.
mean?
Yes, completely, completely, all of that. And, one of the reasons that my partner and I make a good match is because he does not care as much about these things as I do. So there's a lot of compromise in that department, and I compromise in other ways. And that's an interesting like interplay to potentially describe either between you and a friend or a family member, you and your team that you're working with, in an extracurricular activity or something along those lines. I like that. Interesting ways to think about relationships
Yeah.
beyond sharing toothbrushes.
Nice. All
Show
right.
us
Well,
something, Becca. What you got?
I will hold up. I have this little box. It's hard for me to describe this. Oh God, I shouldn't say that. I'm a writer. Um,
It's still hard for us to describe things. Very hard. Let me
it looks
see.
like
Show
it
me.
looks like a tiny little jewelry box,
Oh,
like that, like
it's
a
got a
necklace.
wax seal on it, like a broken
It
wax
has a
seal.
wax seal on it. And I taught at a college for many years. I was a visiting professor in creative writing, and I also have a background in American Lit. So I was an American Lit professor, and I taught an entire seminar course for 16 weeks on Moby Dick, which is my favorite book in the world. My students at the end of the semester, many of them were really moved by the book in an unexpected way. And so they gave me gifts. And I had one student, she gave me this box, which has a tiny, tiny
Oh
whale in
my
it
God.
and a quote from Moby Dick in it, which says, "We seem to be sailing through boundless fields of ripe and golden wheat." So the reason I love this is because the book for me was so larger than life, including the main point of the book, which is about sort of hunting your nemesis, what's elusive but large. And yet my student contained it in the tiniest little whale in the tiniest box. And it was a way for me to think about things in my life that seem giant and uncontainable, but that can actually, with some careful thought, can be brought down to like a kernel of truth. And so if I were writing an essay, like one of the things about me with essays is I'm really thinking about metaphor. That's just how my brain works. And so I always push students to think beyond the story of, someone gave me this and it means a lot to me, but to think about the metaphor behind it. Like, how did we take something so large, a whale, and how did we fit it into the smallest possible box? And how do you do that with other things in your life?
Absolutely. Guys, I got a plant. I got a plant. I got a plant. I have a plant. This is a succulent. And I got it during COVID when nobody knew what to do with them, when nobody knew what to do with themselves, myself included. And I have never been a person who has purported to be able to keep anything alive other than myself. So this plant has been with me since 2020. And just the other day, it started to flower for the first time, which is crazy. So these plants, and this is one of like 20 that I acquired in COVID, uh, have not just been living, they have been flourishing. And the way that succulents flower very often is if you neglect them. And it just so happens that this succulent started to flower when I was in Tokyo for 3 months. And when I came back, because I had left it, it bloomed and it just felt very cosmic to me in a way, that doing something that felt really important to me and putting some other things on the back burner actually allowed parts of my life to flower.
That's so beautiful, Stacey. What college do you want to go to? That's a winning, that is a winning essay. Maybe you
And
want to go to
listen,
horticultural school.
listen, let's be clear. These are not, objects you pick up at random are not always going to have this like very clear sense of story to them. And Becca and I at this point can do this in our sleep. We're picking things that are a little easier to explain. So I don't want you to be discouraged if you don't have this massive, multi-layered idea coming out of your objects. I think just thinking about the stories, thinking about, wow, what did I do during COVID? I cultivated this like collection of incredible living things, like a wide variety of succulents. What else about that is interesting? What does that say about you as a person, that you decided you wanted to take care of things in a time where it was hard for people to take care of themselves, let's say? There are a million different directions that things can go in, and it takes time. But at least this is a starting point. I think sometimes students struggle when, even when they're given brainstorming questions and they have to just like look inside of their brains, close their eyes, think, remember. Like a visual is so helpful at sparking memory, just like smells and taste can, bring you right back to a place. So this is just a way to help yourself tap into that.
I'm glad you mentioned that the things that we're presenting are seemingly more sophisticated and thought through. I also
hmm,
actually randomly grabbed some things from around the room, including something that means literally nothing to me, which is this tomato leaf scented candle from Trader Joe's.
Sounds amazing, actually. I love
Circa
tomato scented
circa
things.
2021. Yeah, I do too. But I have never lit it. And periodically, my husband will do what I call the candle sweep of the house, which is super annoying, where he goes around and he's like, "We know why do we have this candle? We have lots of candles that are never lit." Because I've thought a lot about this. I bought this because I do love the smell of tomato. Also, it's not called tomato, it's called tomato leaf, which I
hmm
love. So it's actually the smell of the leaves, which I think is so
fresh.
cool to think of fresh, and to think about the thing that doesn't stand out the most is having the most association with memory is really interesting.
Mm.
And I've realized that my unlit candle collection, which by the way, if you were watching this on YouTube, um, you can see all the dust in the candle. It's like a dirty candle.
Ew.
I ew,
This isn't a hygiene podcast.
I am like afraid sometimes of like um using things I buy. Like I like the smell so much that by burning it, I'm afraid then I won't have it anymore. So I just don't do anything with it. And so for me, my larger thing with these candles that are unlit is like I think sometimes in other ways I take risks in my life, but then in some ways, like if I find something I really like, I kind of want to live in that moment without risking what it's like for that to disappear. Even though it would be
Totally
beautiful
can
lit.
relate. Can
Yeah.
relate. And
Yeah.
which brings up a point that I think often when you tap into your own truths, you're often tapping into more universal truths. And when people say, like, oh, I can relate to that, even if they don't do the exact same things you're doing or haven't processed the exact same emotions, I think there's something really compelling about someone being able to externalize or define or give name to, their experiences in a way that feels familiar.
Absolutely. So if I were like a high school senior writing this essay and we stumbled upon this candle idea, maybe that would be our opening is like the dusty candles. And then maybe we'd make some kind of comparison in the essay to things that in their life they've worked hard to to take the risk to like be willing to live outside that imperfection. And then the end is maybe the student lighting the candle
Love it.
and seeing the, you know what I mean? So we're ending with
Love
an
it.
image. Like it's very circular, it's very memorable. And it all comes from like this
Mm-hmm.
candle that my husband wrongly
Wants
wanted to
to
throw
throw
away.
out.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's our episode on objects and creativity. And if you enjoyed our content, please like and subscribe and also share. Not share as in turn back time, who's awesome, but share this
I
information.
don't think
with
anyone
other
but you
people.
and me were thinking about that, but that's great. I love the clarity.
Thank you.
But yes, for sure. Send this to other people if you think it will be helpful. And we're going to make more episodes for you. And we can't wait to be in your ear again soon.